There was nothing that distinguished the twins Carol and Chloe Reynolds in the eyes of strangers. The same wavy brown hair, the same smile with a small dimple on the right side, the same average height. Only those who knew them well noticed the differences. Carol had a dreamy look, always with her head in the clouds, while Chloe kept her feet firmly on the ground, with a pragmatism that was reflected in her attentive gaze. In the small suburban house where they grew up, their room was a sanctuary of confidences. The pink walls, chosen when they were 7, witnessed countless nights of conversations until dawn. "Are you going to get married in white or ivory?" Carol would ask, lying on her stomach on her bed, flipping through a bridal magazine she had borrowed from the library. "Pure white," Chloe replied without hesitation, organising her schoolbooks for the next day. "And my bouquet will have lilies, like the ones Mum used." "Imagine if we get married on the same day? It would be magical." Carol sighed, turning a page in the magazine to show her sister a dress model with a long train. Chloe smiled, shaking her head. "It would be confusing, but we can be each other's bridesmaids." The door opened gently, revealing Helen, their mother, with her dark hair tied in a casual bun and eyes tired but kind. "It's already past 10 o'clock, girls. You have school early tomorrow." "Just 5 more minutes, Mum," pleaded Carol while Chloe was already packing up her materials. "You will have time to plan your weddings when you grow up. Now it's time to dream about your math homework," said Helen, kissing each on the forehead before turning off the light, leaving only the moon-shaped lamp on. That comforting normality was destroyed on a rainy night 10 years later. The twins, then 18, were waiting for their parents to return from an anniversary dinner. The phone call came at midnight. Wet road, a truck, brakes that failed. James and Helen Reynolds didn't survive. The funeral was a blurred stain in Carol's memory. She remembered only the piercing cold, despite it being mid-spring, and an emptiness that seemed to swallow the entire cemetery. While people offered condolences, Chloe thanked them with a restrained nod, holding her sister's trembling hand. In the days that followed, Carol remained in an almost catatonic state, curled up on her parents' bed, breathing in the scent that still lingered on the pillows. Meanwhile, Chloe faced queues at registries, signed documents, resolved bank issues, and organised the house. "We need to decide if we're going to sell the house," Chloe said one morning, sitting on the edge of the bed where Carol had been for almost a week. "Sell?" Carol's voice came out rough from disuse. "How can you think about that now?" "Carol, we're on our own now. Someone needs to be the adult," Chloe replied, rubbing her red eyes from sleepless nights. Her young face already showed worry lines that weren't there before. "We have bills, college ahead, we need a plan." "A plan?" Carol sat up abruptly. "Our parents just died, and you're already planning the next step as if it were a business meeting." Chloe's eyes shimmered with held-back tears. "Do you think I'm not suffering? But crying won't pay the bills or secure our future." The tension grew in the following weeks. While Chloe dealt with the bureaucracy, Carol sank deeper into her silent grief, unable to understand how her sister managed to function with such apparent normalcy. In reality, she didn't see the moments when Chloe locked herself in the bathroom to cry, or when she hugged a photo of their parents before going to sleep. It was one morning, 3 months after the accident, that Carol took her backpack, some clothes, all the savings she had, and left only a short note. "I need to find my own way. Don't look for me." And so 8 years passed. Carol wandered through small towns, taking temporary jobs in diners, convenience stores, hotels. Each new place brought the momentary relief of anonymity, but also the growing weight of loneliness. On cold nights, lying in rented rooms, she thought of Chloe and the home she had left behind. The remorse accumulated silently, like snow on a rooftop, until it threatened to collapse. It was after a particularly difficult shift in a roadside cafe that Carol made her decision. An elderly customer had commented on forgiveness while chatting with a friend. "Time passes too quickly to hold on to grudges," she said, unaware that her words were planting a seed in the heart of the silent waitress serving them. The next morning, Carol took a bus back home. The 12-hour journey seemed endless. Through the window, she watched the landscape gradually change until she recognized the familiar contours of the small town where she had grown up. Her heart raced as she got off the bus, the worn backpack hanging from one shoulder. The streets had changed little, some new shops, others closed, but the essence remained the same. Her steps automatically led her to the family home. As she approached, she noticed that the house was well cared for. Trimmed garden, a new coat of paint on the shutters, the porch swing replaced by a rocking chair. Carol felt a lump in her throat. Did Chloe still live there? Just as she was about to climb the porch steps, she heard a familiar voice calling her name. Carol? Carol Reynolds? Is that you? Turning around, she saw Mrs. Martinez, the neighbour who always gave them cookies when they were children, now with completely grey hair but with the same warm smile. Mrs. Martinez, Carol smiled shyly. Yes, it's me. The lady approached, examining her with attentive eyes. My goodness, it's been so long. Are you looking for Chloe? Yes. Does she still live here? A look of surprise crossed Mrs. Martinez's face. Dear, you don't know. Chloe is getting married today. It was as if the ground disappeared from under her feet. Chloe getting married? And she didn't even know. Today, Carol repeated, feeling dizzy. Yes, the ceremony starts in 2 hours at the downtown church. Everyone is so happy for her, especially after everything she's been through. Mrs. Martinez paused, observing Carol's reaction. Weren't you invited? Carol shook her head, swallowing the lump forming in her throat. Well, we lost touch, I didn't know. Mrs. Martinez's gaze softened. Well, I'm going there now to help with the preparations. Why don't you come with me? I don't have an invitation, and I don't have the appropriate clothes. Carol looked at her faded jeans and simple t-shirt. Nonsense. I'm sure Chloe would be happy to see you. As for the clothes, the lady examined her thoughtfully. Do you still have the same size? I have a beautiful dress that my daughter gave me, but it's too young for me. It should fit you perfectly. Before she could protest, Carol found herself being led to Mrs. Martinez's house. There, a few minutes later, she stood in front of the mirror wearing a simple but elegant navy blue dress, with her hair styled in an improvised updo. You look beautiful, declared Mrs. Martinez, adjusting a small arrangement of flowers in Carol's hair. Now let's go, or we'll be late. The drive to the church was in silence, with Carol trying to calm her racing heart. What would she say to Chloe after so long? Would she be welcomed or cause a scene? Perhaps she should just watch from afar without being seen. The church was decorated with white lilies and gold ribbons, just as Chloe had always dreamed. Carol sat discreetly on the last pew, half hidden by a column. Excited guests chatted, settled into their seats, and soft music filled the environment. When the doors opened and the wedding march began, everyone stood up. Carol remained in her place, barely breathing, observing the groom for the first time, a tall man with a gentle smile who seemed extremely nervous and happy at the same time. And then Chloe appeared. She was stunning in her white dress, just as she had imagined so many years ago. Her hair, now shorter than Carol remembered, was adorned with small white flowers. But what caught Carol's attention the most was the expression on her sister's face. Serene, but with a shadow of melancholy in her eyes. Chloe walked alone down the aisle, without a father or mother to accompany her, without her twin sister to be her maid of honour. The sight broke something inside Carol, who couldn't hold back the silent tears that streamed down her face. It was when it happened. In the middle of the path, while Chloe looked at the guests with a polite smile, her eyes met Carol's. The bride stopped abruptly, her mouth opening in shock. Murmurs began to ripple through the church as everyone turned to see what had caused the interruption. Carol stood up, uncertain, ready to leave discreetly if she wasn't welcome. But then Chloe did something unexpected. She handed her bouquet to the closest bridesmaid and started walking quickly toward her sister. The guests watched in silence, confused, as Chloe moved with determination towards where Carol was. When she arrived, she stopped just a few inches away from her sister. 8 years of absence hung between them like an invisible wall. "You're here," Chloe whispered, her voice laden with emotion. "I didn't know," replied Carol, tears now streaming freely. "I just got into town. Mrs. Martinez told me." Without warning, Chloe hugged her tightly, and Carol felt the familiar scent of her sister, a mix of vanilla and lavender that brought back 1,000 memories. Chloe's arms trembled slightly as she held her sister, as if fearing she might disappear again. When they finally pulled apart, Chloe wiped her own tears, trying not to smudge her makeup. "You're not going to leave me again, are you?" The question held years of accumulated pain. "No," Carol replied firmly. "Not if you let me stay." A genuine smile lit up Chloe's face. Then, to everyone's surprise, she reached out to her sister. "Do you remember what we planned when we were little?" Carol nodded, unable to speak. "Then keep your promise. Be my maid of honor, even if improvised," Chloe smiled, "and walk me down the aisle." A collective sigh swept through the church, followed by a murmur of excitement. The groom, watching everything from the altar, had teary eyes and a sympathetic smile. Hand in hand, the twins walked together down the central aisle. With each step, years of distance and resentment seemed to dissipate. When they reached the altar, Carol handed her sister's hand to the groom, who received it with a look of gratitude. "Take good care of her," Carol whispered before stepping away to sit in the front row. The ceremony continued, but for Carol, it seemed to occur in a parallel dimension. Her mind was filled with memories and thoughts about lost time, unspoken words, the grief they faced apart. At the reception, held in the garden of a small hotel, Carol finally formally met Matthew, the new brother-in-law, a music teacher who had won Chloe over with his kindness and patience. He hugged her as if he had known her for years. "She never stopped talking about you," Matthew said, while they watched Chloe enthusiastically chatting with some guests. "She has a box full of letters she wrote to you but never knew where to send them." The words weighed heavily on Carol's heart. "I was selfish," she admitted. "I thought I was the only one suffering." Matthew shook his head. "Grief has no rules, Carol. Everyone faces it in their own way." Later, when the evening light bathed the garden in golden hues, the sisters found a moment alone. "Why did you come back now?" Chloe asked, spinning the champagne glass in her hands absent-mindedly. Carol took a deep breath. "I realized I was trying to escape the pain, but I only managed to carry it with me everywhere. And the more time passed, the harder it became to come back." She paused, looking directly into her sister's eyes. "How did you manage to move on? After the accident, I mean. You seemed so strong, so functional." A sad smile crossed Chloe's face. "It wasn't strength, Carol. It was fear. Fear that if I stopped to really feel the pain, I would never be able to get up again. So I clung to practicality, to tasks, to responsibilities. But inside, I was as broken as you." The words hung between them, laden with truth and mutual recognition. "Do you remember what Mom always said?" Chloe asked softly. "That even when we argued, we were like magnets. We could pull apart but would always end up coming back to each other." Carol nodded, smiling through her tears. She was right, as always. She hesitated for a moment before continuing. "Do you think they would forgive me for running away?" "They would understand," Chloe replied with conviction. "And I understand now too. Each of us did what we needed to survive." The silence that followed was no longer laden with unspoken accusations or resentments, but with acceptance and understanding. The Reynolds twins, finally reunited, watched the guests dance to the sound of soft music, their hands joined as they had been when they were children. "Will you stay for the cake cutting?" Chloe asked. a touch of humour in her voice. Carol squeezed her sister's hand. "I'll stay for much more than that, if you'll have me back." "There has always been a place for you," Chloe replied. "In the house, and here." She touched her own heart. As the night progressed, the stars appeared in the sky, bright and clear. Somewhere, Carol thought, her parents were watching, celebrating not only their daughter's wedding, but also the reunion that had healed a long open wound. The grief that had separated them now united them through the understanding that even in the darkest moments love remains, transformed perhaps, but never truly lost. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.